The year is 2005. A young man steps onto British soil carrying dreams and scars from Cameroon.
I arrive in London, a city teeming with life and promise. I am a stranger in a strange land.
He navigates bureaucracy, seeking asylum and clinging to hope.
I dream of finding my place in this new world.
Small victories like a friendly face or a shared meal fuel his spirit.
These moments remind me that even in a foreign land, kindness can bloom.
He believes that one day he will build a life filled with love and stability.
Each day is a step towards rebuilding my life.
His asylum application is a long, arduous process.
I'm not allowed to work, my movements restricted. Each day is a struggle to maintain my dignity.
Loneliness becomes his constant companion.
I miss my family, my friends, the familiar rhythms of my homeland.
The city feels like a cold, indifferent labyrinth.
I seek solace in small communities of refugees, sharing stories of loss and resilience.
Together, they navigate the challenges of their new lives.
They become my surrogate family, offering support and understanding.
"5 years pass in uncertainty, then everything changes.
I receive a letter. My application for refugee status has been approved.
Relief washes over him. He can now work and build a life.
I throw myself into finding employment, eager to contribute to my adopted country.
He saves diligently, enrolls in English classes, and connects with others.
Each paycheck is a victory, a symbol of my resilience.
His world expands with every new word learned.
I embrace opportunities, working tirelessly to build a better future.
15 years have passed. He now stands on the cusp of applying for British citizenship.
I study diligently for the citizenship test, fueled by a deep desire for belonging.
The day of the ceremony arrives, filled with excitement and trepidation.
I recite the oath of allegiance, feeling a profound sense of gratitude and belonging.
He is now a citizen, his past struggles shaping the man he has become.
Life as a British citizen brings new opportunities and challenges.
He becomes an advocate for other refugees, using his voice to promote understanding.
I volunteer at a community center, offering support to newcomers.
In the digital age, connections transcend borders.
I reconnected with distant relatives, their voices bridging the gap across continents.
He joins online forums, rediscovering a sense of community.
One day, I stumbled upon a familiar face from my village in Cameroon.
Intrigued, he sends her a message reopening a door to his past.
Our conversations become a lifeline, a source of comfort and support.
They find solace in their shared cultural heritage.
I admire her strength and resilience, looking forward to our interactions.
Their online conversations become a beacon of light.
We shared our dreams, our fears, our hopes for the future.
He decides to take a leap of faith.
Will you marry me?
Yes, I will marry you.
They begin making plans for their future together.
I traveled back to Cameroon for a modest but joyful wedding ceremony.
Despite the distance, they are determined to build a life together in the UK. Their separation is a constant ache in his heart.
I shared details of my life in London, the small joys and everyday struggles.
He listens as she describes her life in Cameroon.
I encouraged her to focus on improving her English.
He sends her textbooks, pays for tutors, and practices with her over video calls.
3 months after our wedding, I received devastating news.
Her uncle has kicked her out, leaving her with nowhere to go.
I knew I needed to act quickly to ensure her safety and well-being.
He juggles multiple jobs, the financial strain taking a toll.
I've cut back on everything but the essentials.
Despite the exhaustion, he never complains.
I send her every penny I can spare.
Cracks begin to appear in their relationship.
It will be different when she's finally by my side in London.
Deep down, a seed of doubt begins to grow.
I try to push down the feeling of unease.
The weight of his wife's future rests heavily on his shoulders.
You're doing great. Just remember, there is possessive and there is a place.
He celebrates her small victories.
I failed. I can't believe I failed.
He listens to her heartbreak, supporting her every step of the way.
Try again. I'll support you every step of the way.
He digs deeper into his finances, paying for additional tutoring.
I'm praying this time will be different.
After 3 long years of separation, their reunion is finally within reach. He receives a text message, a photo of his wife beaming, holding her English language certificate.
She did it. She really did it.
Relief washes over him, followed by a surge of joy so intense it brings tears to his eyes. He can finally hold her in his arms, their shared dream closer than ever. He waits nervously at the arrival's gate, his heart pounding in his chest.
Where is she? I can't wait to see her.
He scans the faces of disembarking passengers, searching for the woman who has haunted his dreams. And then he sees her face breaking into a radiant smile as their eyes meet. Their embrace is everything he dreamed of, a fusion of longing, relief, and the promise of a future together. The initial euphoria of their reunion begins to fade, replaced by a growing sense of unease. He notices subtle changes in his wife's behavior. She spends hours on her phone, her conversations hushed, her gaze guarded when he enters the room. The once comforting weight of her presence in his life begins to feel suffocating, her silence speaking volumes. She's withdrawn, her once warm smiles replaced by a distant coolness. She becomes increasingly critical of him, finding fault in his every action, her words like tiny daggers chipping away at his confidence. He's confused, hurt by her sudden shift, his heart aching with a sense of betrayal he can't quite comprehend. I try to initiate conversations to rekindle the intimacy we once shared, but my attempts are met with indifference. Her replies are curt, her attention elsewhere. He tries to convince himself that it's nothing, that his mind is playing tricks on him, fueled by insecurity and the lingering trauma of their long separation. But the seed of doubt planted in his heart begins to take root, its tendrils wrapping around his mind, choking the love he's so desperately clinging to. I overhear snippets of her phone conversations, her voice animated, filled with a warmth she no longer reserves for me. She uses endearments, her tone laced with a familiarity that sends a chill down my spine. His heart races as he picks up the phone, his gut clenching as he sees a message flash across the screen. It's from an unknown number, the words a punch to his stomach. "Darling, I miss you so much. When will I see you again?" One evening, while she's in the shower, her phone buzzes on the kitchen table. I try to ignore it, but the temptation proves too strong. The phone slips from his grasp, clattering onto the floor, the sound a sharp intrusion in the deafening silence. The message confirms his deepest fears, shattering the fragile illusion of happiness.
The woman I love is in love with someone else.
His mind races, trying to reconcile the loving wife with the deceitful stranger. He replays their conversations, searching for signs of betrayal.
Her recent coldness, her constant phone calls, it all clicks into place. The puzzle pieces of her deceit form a clear, heart-wrenching picture.
He's overwhelmed by a torrent of emotions: anger, hurt, confusion, betrayal. He wants to confront her, to demand answers, to scream his pain and rage. He confronts her with the evidence, his voice trembling with rage and heartbreak. Her initial reaction is denial, but the evidence is irrefutable.
How could you do this to me?
She tries to justify her actions, blaming him for her unhappiness and unfulfilled promises.
You never understood me. All the sacrifices I made, the promises you never kept.
She twists the narrative, painting herself as the victim. He listens in stunned silence.
I can't believe this. How could I have been so blind? I need help. She's threatening me, emotionally abusing me. I can't stay in that apartment any longer.
He calls the police, his voice trembling as he relays the threats and emotional abuse. He knows he needs to escape the suffocating presence of the woman who has turned his life into a nightmare.
Sir, please stay calm. We'll send someone over right away.
The police arrive, their presence a stark reminder of the reality he's trying to deny. His wife, a master manipulator, spins a tale of a controlling, abusive husband.
No, that's not true. She's lying. Please, you have to believe me.
He's arrested, his protests drowned out by her accusations. He's escorted out of his own home in handcuffs, his world collapsing around him. He spends a night in a cold, sterile cell, the metal bars a stark contrast to the warmth he once found in her arms. He's released on bail the next morning, not allowed to return home. He's homeless, adrift in a city that suddenly feels vast and unforgiving. He crashes on friends' couches, his shame and humiliation a heavy weight on his chest. He can't believe this is his life, that the woman he loved could discard him so easily.
How did it come to this? How could she do this to me? I've lost everything.
He's broken, his spirit crushed by the weight of her betrayal. The streets of London, once a symbol of hope and opportunity, now feel like a cold and indifferent labyrinth. The man wanders aimlessly, his mind a whirlwind of confusion and despair. He's haunted by the betrayal, the lies, the ease with which his wife had discarded him. The warmth of human connection now feels like a distant memory. He finds temporary refuge in shelters, his nights punctuated by the snores of strangers. He clutches his phone, desperately hoping for a message, a sign that someone cares. His wife's messages are a constant source of torment, alternating between feigned concern and thinly veiled threats. He seeks solace in the familiar routines of work, his body moving on autopilot. His colleagues, unaware of the turmoil within him, offer words of encouragement. He forces a smile, his heart heavy with the burden of his secret. He hires a solicitor, a beacon of hope in the overwhelming darkness of the legal system. The solicitor listens patiently as he relays his story, his voice cracking with emotion.
I just want the truth to come out. I need justice.
He clings to the hope that the law will be on his side, that justice will prevail. The legal process is slow and arduous, each hearing a painful reminder of the life he's lost. He's forced to relive the betrayal, his words dissected, his motives questioned. His wife, a master manipulator, uses every tactic to discredit him. She portrays herself as a vulnerable immigrant, a victim of domestic abuse. The weight of his situation becomes unbearable. He's isolated, ostracized. He's adrift in a sea of despair, the waves of betrayal crashing over him.
I don't know how much more I can take. I just want this nightmare to end.
A glimmer of hope emerges from an unexpected source. A member of his wife's family reaches out to him, offering support.
For the first time since my ordeal began, I feel a flicker of warmth.
He confides in his new ally, sharing the details of his wife's betrayal. He learns he's not the first person she's manipulated. Her pattern of deceit stretches back years.
Horrified by her cruelty, but comforted knowing it's not my fault.
Armed with this knowledge, he approaches the police again. He pleads with them to see through his wife's lies. But his hopes are dashed once again. Without concrete proof, there's nothing they can do. He's left with the shattered remnants of his life. The weight of injustice pressed down on him, heavy and suffocating. He had sought refuge in the law, hoping for vindication, for a recognition of the truth that echoed in his heart. But the legal system, with its labyrinthine corridors and cold, impartial gaze, had failed him. His wife, a skilled architect of deception, had manipulated the system to her advantage, her lies echoing louder than his truths.
I carried a small, worn notebook everywhere I went, its pages filled with handwritten notes, dates and details, a testament to my ordeal. It was my shield against the whispers of doubt, the insidious voice that told me I was to blame, that I had imagined it all. I knew the truth, even if the world refused to see it.
The emotional toll of the betrayal was a constant ache in his chest. Sleep offered no escape, his nights plagued by nightmares, his dreams a tangled web of love, deceit, and the bitter taste of injustice. He was adrift in a sea of grief, the familiar landmarks of his life swallowed by the waves of his wife's treachery. The warmth of human connection, once a source of solace and strength, now felt like a distant memory. He withdrew into himself, his silence a shield against the pain of judgment and disbelief in the eyes of others. He was a stranger in his own life, his identity fractured, his spirit broken. Time, the great healer, began to mend the shattered fragments of his heart, slowly, patiently, like a skilled artisan piecing together a broken mosaic. The raw edges of his pain softened, the sharp stabs of betrayal replaced by a dull ache. He knew he would never forget the ordeal, but he was determined to move forward, to reclaim his life from the ashes of deceit.
I sought solace in the familiar rhythms of work, finding purpose in the mundane tasks that filled my days. I reconnected with old friends, their laughter a balm to my wounded spirit. I rediscovered the simple joys of life, a shared meal, a walk in the park, the warmth of the sun on my face.
He began to write, pouring his experiences, his pain, his anger, his hope onto the pages of a journal. Writing became his therapy, a way to process the trauma, to make sense of the chaos that had engulfed his life.
I wrote to heal, to understand, to find my voice again amidst the silence that had threatened to consume me.
He found strength in the stories of other survivors, men and women who had endured similar betrayals, who had navigated the treacherous waters of heartbreak and emerged stronger, wiser, more resilient. He realized he was not alone, that his story, though unique in its details, resonated with a universal truth, that love, even in its most devastating forms, could not extinguish the human spirit's capacity for healing and growth. His journey was far from over, the scars of betrayal a permanent reminder of his ordeal, but he refused to let the experience define him, to allow his wife's actions to dictate the course of his life. He had emerged from the darkness, battered but not broken, his spirit tempered by adversity.
I shared my story not from a place of bitterness or resentment, but from a desire to empower others, to give voice to the voiceless. I wanted to break the silence that surrounded domestic abuse, particularly within immigrant communities, where cultural stigmas and language barriers often prevented victims from seeking help.
He became an advocate for change, working with local organizations to raise awareness about domestic abuse, to provide support for survivors, to challenge the systemic inequalities that often compounded the trauma of betrayal. He knew that his story, though born out of pain, had the power to inspire hope, to remind others that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit could triumph over adversity.
My journey was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a beacon of hope in a world often shrouded in darkness. I had learned that love, though it could inflict unimaginable pain, could also be a source of incredible strength. I had learned that forgiveness, though a difficult and often painful process, was essential for healing. And I had learned that even in the face of betrayal, the human heart, though broken, could learn to love again.